Good day, everyone. I am Redemptor Arsakayan from the Mathematics Department of the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics of the Mindanao State University, Marawi campus. In this video presentation, we are going to learn about the measures of central tendency. Before we discuss our main topic, which is the measures of central tendencies, let us familiarize the following basic concepts. First, we have the population. By definition, a population consists of all units of interest from which the data is to be collected. Population is not only limited to human population, so it could also be animals, microorganisms, plants, and others. And any numerical characteristic that describes a population is called a parameter. On the other hand, a sample consists of observed units collected from the population, and it can also be referred as any subset or a fraction of the population. And to estimate the population, we compute a numerical value, characteristic, or a measure from the sample, and we call this a statistic. To differentiate the terms between the population and a sample, we have here a simple diagram. Suppose we conduct a research regarding the speed of internet for the online education, and we have a target population. For example, the students of MSU Marawi. To describe the speed of internet used by the students, we compute some values which we call the parameters. For example, mu, which is the letter used for the population mean, sigma for the population standard deviation, and sigma squared for the population variances. Meanwhile, most of the time, we only take part of the population to get information, especially when the population size is very large. So we conduct sampling or random sampling in particular. And the units collected from it is what we call sample or samples. And we compute some values to summarize or describe the samples, and we call these values as statistics, like the sample mean denoted as x bar, the sample standard deviation denoted as s, and for the sample variance, it is denoted as s squared. One of the various descriptive measures of data is called the measures of central tendencies, or also known as the measure of central location. It is a numerical value that summarizes a set of observations into a single value, and that value may be used to represent the entire population. These values is typically referred to as the average, but in statistical terminology, it is called the measures of central location. Meanwhile, it is also a single value about which the observations or the majority of observations tend to cluster. The three types of measures commonly used to indicate the center of a set of observations are the arithmetic mean, or simply the mean, the median, and the mode. The first measure of central location that I'm going to discuss is the arithmetic mean. If a set of data is represented by the notation x sub 1, x sub 2 to x sub n, not necessarily all distinct, which means that the observations in a set of data could be repeated, then the arithmetic mean is computed using the formula mu, which is equal to the summation of x sub I, where I ranges from 1 to n, all over n. Now, in this equation, the number of observations in the population or the population size is denoted by the uppercase letter n, and the Greek letter mu is used to represent the population mean. In most applications, the population mean is unknown, and the sample mean is computed to estimate this value based on the samples gathered. Basically, the computing formula for the sample mean is essentially the same as that of the population, except for the lowercase letter n, which is used to denote the number of elements in the sample, and we use X bar to denote the sample mean. Now let us apply the arithmetic mean. To evaluate the effectiveness of a processor for a certain type of task, we recorded the CPU time in seconds for 15 randomly chosen jobs, or the dataset CPU. Based on this data, compute for the arithmetic mean of the CPU time. To solve this, since the CPU time is a sample data, hence we are going to use the formula for the sample mean expressed as X bar, which is equal to the sum of all the values of the CPU time divided by the total number of observations, which is 15. Then we get the arithmetic mean of the CPU time, which is equal to 57.6. Another example is the numbers of block intrusion attempts on each day during the first 2 weeks of the month were recorded as follows. Compute for the sample mean of the block intrusion attempts. To solve this, note that this is a sample data, then we are going to use the computing formula for the sample mean. Then adding all the numbers of the block intrusion attempts divided by the total observations or total number of observations, which is 14, then we get 49.79, which means that on the average, the number of block intrusion attempts for the first 2 weeks of the month is 49.79. Sometimes we want to attach more significance to some observations, and weights are used to emphasize them. If we denote the weights of each of the k distinct observations by W sub 1, W sub 2 to W sub k respectively, a sample mean which provide a relative importance to the individual observations is the weighted mean, and it is computed using the formula X bar W, which can be expressed as the sum of the product of the weights and the x values or the observations divided by the sum of their weights, or the sum of the W sub I, where I ranges from 1 to n. An example where we can use the weighted mean is when we compute the grade point average, or the GPA, which is basically the summary of the academic performance of a student for a particular semester. For example, the student's final grades in JEC 104, Math 060, CT 071, and JEC 106 are 1.25, 2.25, 1.75, and 2.0 respectively. If the respective credits for these subjects are 3, 5, 2, and 3 units, determine the student's GPA or the weighted average. In these problems, the grades per subject are the observations, and the number of units of each subject are the weights. Now, computing the GPA using the weighted mean formula, we get 1.25 multiplied by 3 plus 2.25 times 5 plus 1.75 times 2 plus 2 times 3 all over the sum of the weights, which is 12. Now, adding all the values in the numerator divided by 12, then we obtain the GPA of the student for that semester, which is approximately 2.04. Among the measures of central location, the arithmetic mean is the most commonly used, and it has some nice mathematical properties which make it an attractive choice from among the different measures of central location. First, it is unique. That means that we can only obtain one value. Second, it can be computed for numerical data only, that is interval or ratio level data. Third, the arithmetic mean or the mean is easily affected by extreme values. Thus, we need to be cautious in using the mean when there are extreme observations, or also known as the outliers. Now, if the outlier is present and it is extremely low, then it would pull down the value of the mean. However, if the outlier is a very big value, then This means that it will magnify the value of the mean. Now, if the mean is greatly affected with the presence of the extreme observations or outliers, then our summary description of the data is distorted. A measure of central location which is not affected by the presence of abnormally large or abnormally small observations is the median, which is the middle value of a set of observations arranged in an increasing or decreasing order of magnitude. Now, computing for the median, denoted by x tilde, depends on the ordered observations and the number of observations. If n is odd, then the median would be the middle value of the data set. Otherwise, if n is even, then it is the average of the two middle values. We have here a note that the population median mu tilde can be obtained by replacing the small letter n with a capital letter N. To apply the median, we use the dataset used previously, which is the CPU time in seconds for 15 randomly chosen jobs. Now, given the following observations, we compute for the sample median of the CPU time. To solve for the median CPU time, first step we need to arrange the observations in a decreasing or increasing order of magnitude. In this case, we arrange it in an increasing order, and the arranged data are as follows, where x sub 1 is 25, x sub 2 is 35, until x sub 15, which denotes the last observation, 139. Now, for the second step, since n is equal to 15, which is an odd number, then we can directly find the median by looking at the middle value of the ordered observations of the CPU time, or by substituting n, which is equal to 15, to the formula. Then the median would be the eighth value of the dataset, which is 46. Second example is the numbers of block intrusion attempts for the first 2 weeks of the month. Now, given this data set, let us compute the sample median number of block intrusion attempts. The same process of what we did previously in computing for the median. First, we arrange the observations of the block intrusion attempts in a decreasing or increasing order of magnitude. Now, in this case, we arrange it in increasing order still, and the arranged data are as follows. Now, since n is equal to 14, which is an it is an even number, then we can find the median value by computing the average of the two middle values of the ordered observations, or by substituting the values of n to the formula. Then the median would be the average of the 7th and 8th observations of the data set, obtaining 50 as our sample median number of block intrusion attempts. The same with the arithmetic mean, the median also has properties. First, it is unique for numerical data. Second, it can be computed for at least in the ordinal scale. So it can be computed also for interval and ratio level type of data. And third, it is a positional value, and unlike the arithmetic mean, it is not affected by the presence of extreme values. In addition to the mean and the median, another measure of central tendencies or location is the mode, which is the value or values that occurs the most number of times, or the value or values with the greatest frequency. So a dataset can have more than one mode or no mode at all. For example, the numbers of block intrusion attempts for the first 2 weeks of the month. So the sample mode of the block intrusion attempts would be 43 and 50, since it occurs 2 times while the other observations occur only once. Another example is the CPU time in seconds for 15 randomly chosen jobs. So with this dataset, we compute for the sample mode. So to solve this, there is no mode at all since each observation occurs only one, or each observations has only one frequency. Another example is the quality of a sample of 10 computer chips which are identified as defective or not defective. So the observations are as follows. So with these observations, find the sample mode. Since defective D occurs 6 times, while not defective ND occurs only 4 times, then the mode would be D, or defective. With the examples that we use to compute for the mode, we have here some properties, or the properties of the mode. First, it can be computed for any type of data. So whether it is nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio level data. Second, it may not be unique. That means we can obtain not only one value. For example, the block intrusion attempts. And the third is it may not exist. So an example of this is the CPU time.